You think you're chasing pleasure, but deep down, what if you're actually running from emptiness? Each late night scroll, every restless desire that grips you, isn't driven by mere physical craving, but by something far deeper, an inner void you've spent your entire life avoiding. Consider this carefully. What you call lust might simply be your soul desperately signaling the hollowness you've ignored. Lust is like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. The more you consume, the thirstier and emptier you become. You believe satisfaction lies in the next encounter, the next fantasy, or the next distraction. But how many times have you experienced that hollow ache immediately afterward, the emptiness intensifying with every indulgence? What if your strongest desires aren't physical cravings, but silent cries from the disconnected parts of your soul? We tell ourselves stories that the craving is natural, harmless, or even liberating, but these stories seldom hold up in quiet moments of honesty. Late at night, when the distractions fade, you're left facing the silence within yourself. What are you truly running from? Is it boredom, loneliness, fear, or perhaps something deeper that you've refused to acknowledge? Carl Jung described our ignored desires as our shadow, the hidden truths we refuse to face, silently shaping our life until we confront them. Your so-called lust might simply be the shadow's way of calling your attention inward, urging you to reconnect with parts of yourself you've neglected. Have you ever considered that beneath your strongest impulses lies a profound yearning, not for physical satisfaction, but for emotional intimacy, genuine connection, and authentic self-understanding? What might happen if, instead of chasing these fleeting moments of pleasure, you pause to ask yourself, what emptiness within me am I desperately trying to fill? What we often label as physical desire or lust is seldom truly about the physical. Instead, it's often emotional emptiness desperately seeking temporary distraction, a brief escape from loneliness or the silence that grows too loud within. Consider the nights you've spent scrolling aimlessly at 2 a.m., clicking through endless profiles, images, or conversations, not truly driven by authentic desire, but rather by a quiet, persistent desperation. You're not pursuing pleasure in these moments. You're running from your own solitude. Your cravings are like quicksand. The more frantically you grasp at fleeting sensations, clicking, scrolling, imagining, the deeper you sink into emotional emptiness. What you hope will fill you up only leaves you more hollow, more disconnected than before. Can you recall those times when chasing pleasure left you emptier rather than satisfied? Can you remember clearly the hollow silence you felt afterward, realizing that the deeper hunger within you remained untouched? Take Sophie, for instance. Each night she spends hours engaging in endless online chats, exchanging superficial conversations she mistakes for intimacy. She convinces herself this interaction signifies passion and connection. Yet, as each conversation ends, the silence that follows feels deafening, amplifying her loneliness more sharply than before. Slowly, Sophie realizes it's not genuine affection or companionship she's pursuing. It's escape from the quiet confrontation with her own thoughts, feelings, and unmet emotional needs. The uncomfortable truth is that lust isn't the root issue. According to Carl Jung, lust functions more as a symptom, an external manifestation signaling a deeper disconnection from your true self. You mistake fleeting attraction, momentary pleasure, or a temporary rush of dopamine for genuine intimacy, and for a brief moment, you feel alive. Yet once that sensation fades, you're left with an emptiness that's even harder to bear. Lust without genuine self-awareness is like painting over mold. You achieve a superficial, temporary solution, while the deeper issue silently grows beneath the surface, unnoticed and unaddressed. Ask yourself honestly now, what deeper emotional wounds have you been covering up by relentlessly chasing these temporary sensations? Are there moments from your past, disappointments, rejections, or unmet emotional needs that still silently influence how you seek connection? Carl Jung wrote, profoundly reflecting in his red book, "I must learn that the dregs of my thoughts, my desires, are the speech of my soul." Are you listening closely enough to your own soul's quiet whispers behind these restless cravings? Your relentless search for external validation provides another clear example. You post a picture online, eagerly anticipating affirmation and approval. Comments and likes roll in, providing a brief emotional high. Yet soon after, each compliment feels increasingly hollow. Instead of feeling genuinely valued, you experience a deeper void. Why is it that each external validation deepens your sense of emptiness instead of alleviating it? Lust in this sense is akin to chasing your own shadow. No matter how desperately you reach towards it, no matter how fast you run, you can never truly grasp it, because your shadow isn't something external. It's a projection of what's missing inside yourself. It's the part of your soul you haven't yet faced, the emotions you haven't yet confronted, and the inner truths you continually evade. Have you ever seriously considered that your deepest cravings, the persistent fantasies, compulsions, and restless desires, might actually represent desperate attempts to reconnect with parts of yourself you've lost or abandoned along your life's path? Jung described this concept clearly as the anima, the feminine aspect of the male psyche, representing emotional depth, intuition, vulnerability, and the capacity for intimacy. Perhaps when you chase someone else's affection, attention, or touch, you're really seeking reunion with your lost anima, the internal part of you capable of genuine intimacy, warmth, and emotional connection. Pause for a moment and reflect clearly. How many relationships or encounters have you pursued, hoping they'd complete you, only to feel emptier once they end? How often have you mistaken a surge of attraction for true intimacy, realizing later it wasn't real connection, but a mirage driven by unresolved emotional wounds? Have you ever wondered what might happen if, instead of looking outward for solutions, you turned inward to reconnect with those lost parts of yourself? The path to genuine healing isn't found by intensifying external stimuli, nor by continually seeking fulfillment outside of yourself. Instead, it requires the courage to look clearly at your cravings, to listen openly to what your desires are truly signaling. It demands that you pause, reflect, and confront the emptiness directly, rather than masking it beneath surface-level distractions. Jungian psychology suggests that the healing journey involves acknowledging and integrating these hidden parts of yourself. By understanding that your lustful impulses aren't signs of moral failing or superficial indulgence, but deeper cries from your unconscious longing for reconnection, you begin transforming your relationship with desire itself. You no longer feel compelled to run or hide. Instead, you learn to listen deeply, compassionately, and without judgment. When you face your hidden truths, the emotions you've buried, the wounds you've ignored, the fears you've avoided, you move toward wholeness. True intimacy, genuine connection, and lasting emotional fulfillment only become accessible once you courageously acknowledge and integrate the parts of yourself you've long denied. So, reflect deeply now. What neglected part of yourself has been quietly calling out behind your restless desires? What if you stopped running, paused, and turned inward to genuinely reconnect with these lost aspects of your soul? What kind of emotional freedom, clarity, and authentic fulfillment might become possible once you courageously face the truths beneath your lust? Ultimately, the emptiness you've been trying to escape isn't something to fear. It's simply a sign pointing you toward inner reconciliation and genuine self-awareness. Your true task isn't to erase or deny your desires, but to understand their origins and integrate their messages, because beyond the restless cravings, beyond the surface-level pleasures, your soul waits patiently, inviting you home to yourself, urging you toward genuine connection, intimacy, and inner peace. The question remains clear and direct. Are you finally ready to stop running from your inner emptiness and begin the courageous journey toward genuine self-reunion? What if your cravings are not weaknesses, but urgent messages from your soul, begging for recognition, integration, and genuine self-connection? For so long, you've considered these impulses as something wrong with you, an embarrassing defect, a moral failing, or an uncontrollable weakness. But pause for a moment and truly listen. What deeper truths are these desires desperately trying to communicate? Facing your inner emptiness is like entering a dark room you feared for years, initially terrifying, daunting, almost unbearable. You stand before the doorway, hesitant and unsure, imagining countless frightening scenarios inside. Yet the moment you find the courage to step inside and finally switch on the light, everything changes. The monsters you anticipated vanish, replaced instead by clarity, understanding, and profound liberation. The darkness you feared was never external. It was the unknown within yourself, patiently waiting for your acknowledgement. Carl Jung once profoundly expressed, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate." Have you ever truly considered that the relentless desires and cravings you chase might not be random or inevitable? Perhaps these impulses are not simply physical or emotional distractions. Maybe they are clear, powerful signals from your unconscious mind, persistently trying to alert you to unresolved aspects of yourself. Think deeply now. What if the intimacy you tirelessly seek externally can only genuinely be found by reconnecting internally? Each time you pursue another fleeting connection, you're likely attempting to fill an inner void, searching externally for the self-acceptance, emotional intimacy, and love you've denied within. Can you clearly identify moments when the satisfaction you felt was momentary, leaving you lonelier, emptier, and more disconnected than before? Imagine how different your life might be if you stopped running from these feelings you've suppressed. What freedom might you discover if, instead of avoiding loneliness, boredom, or discomfort, you courageously face them directly? Consider this carefully. What if your emotional hunger isn't a flaw to eliminate, but an invitation to genuine healing and self-understanding? The desires you experience are often projections of deeper, unmet emotional needs, feelings you have neglected, abandoned, or rejected. According to Carl Jung, these repressed feelings and forgotten parts of yourself form your shadow, the hidden dimension of your inner world that quietly shapes your behavior, choices, and desires until consciously recognized and integrated. When you chase pleasure superficially, you're essentially projecting your unmet emotional needs onto external stimuli, hoping desperately for satisfaction that never truly arrives. Your shadow, however, isn't your enemy. It is your ally in self-discovery. Jung believed your unconscious was constantly seeking integration, calling you toward wholeness. The lust and craving you mistake as your problem may actually represent your unconscious effort to reconnect you to lost parts of your inner self. Rather than suppressing or fighting these impulses, what if your task was to pause, reflect, and compassionately understand the emotional roots beneath them? Imagine clearly now. What would happen if you finally turned toward the emotional hunger you've tirelessly avoided? What emotional freedom and genuine connection might await you? Could intimacy no longer mean brief physical encounters, but genuine self-understanding and emotional authenticity? What if true fulfillment, self-acceptance, and genuine connection were only possible by stepping toward the very emotions you've long suppressed? Consider again Jung's powerful insight. Until your unconscious desires become conscious, they'll continue to guide your life without your knowledge, shaping your fate. Have you mistaken your cravings as something inevitable and uncontrollable, rather than as signals that healing and integration are needed within your soul? If so, maybe the life you're living now isn't fully your own, but merely a consequence of avoiding your deeper truths. Facing these hidden truths won't always be comfortable. It may require confronting loneliness, regret, sorrow, or fear you've long avoided. Yet the moment you courageously acknowledge these emotions, they lose their grip. Your cravings will no longer control you. They become meaningful messengers guiding you toward profound emotional clarity and genuine self-awareness. Consider a life where your desires no longer isolate you, but reconnect you profoundly to yourself and others. What strength, intimacy, and peace could you discover if you genuinely embraced every aspect of your emotional self? The loneliness you fear, the emptiness you dread, the vulnerability you hide. Instead of constantly seeking relief externally, you could find solace internally, offering yourself the compassion, acceptance, and healing you've desperately sought in fleeting connections. Your desires and impulses aren't curses, they're calls to self-understanding and integration. What you once perceived as emptiness can become clarity. What you once mistook as lustful craving can transform into authentic connection, not only with others, but first and foremost with yourself. Pause once more and reflect deeply. What if your craving isn't about escaping yourself, but finally confronting yourself? What genuine liberation, intimacy, and authenticity might become possible if you courageously face these suppressed emotions instead of running from them? Carl Jung encourages you toward individuation, the lifelong process of integrating every hidden aspect of yourself, embracing your shadow, and reconnecting with the emotional truths within. Lust and craving aren't flaws. They're guiding signals, calling you home to your authentic self. Your deepest desires represent not weaknesses, but doors opening toward genuine emotional freedom, profound healing, and real self-acceptance. The life you've secretly hoped for isn't found by escaping your emptiness. It's found by courageously turning toward it, acknowledging its presence, and listening deeply to the messages it brings. Your soul isn't condemning you with these desires, it's guiding you. Your cravings aren't failures, they're opportunities. Your loneliness isn't punishment, it's a call for connection. The emptiness isn't an obstacle, it's an invitation to wholeness. So now the question remains clear. Are you ready to stop running and start listening? To finally embrace your deeper emotional truths and step forward into the genuine freedom and self-awareness you've always quietly longed for? Maybe genuine freedom isn't escaping your insecurities, but gently, compassionately, and courageously embracing them as meaningful parts of your authentic story. For so long, you've believed liberation means removing all vulnerabilities, fears, and flaws, running as far as you can from the truths you've found uncomfortable or unacceptable within yourself. Yet what if the greatest act of self-love isn't escaping from these insecurities, but finally allowing them a seat at your table? Reflect honestly for a moment. How often have you chased external validation, believing that someone else's approval could finally erase the emptiness you feel? How many times have you hoped that another person's affection or attention would somehow fill the void you carry within? Now ask yourself clearly, has it ever truly worked? Has chasing these external fulfillments ever genuinely filled the deeper emptiness inside? You see, your insecurities are not your enemies. They are profound messengers from within, gently calling you home to your authentic self. They're invitations to turn inward, to listen compassionately, and to understand deeply who you truly are beneath all the masks you've worn to protect yourself. Rather than barriers to connection, your insecurities might actually be the very bridges that lead you toward genuine intimacy, authentic relationships, and deep self-understanding. What if the vulnerability you've been hiding is exactly what someone else desperately needs to see in order to begin their own journey of healing? Your truth, no matter how imperfect or uncomfortable it might seem, has immense power. When you share your vulnerability, you not only heal yourself, you offer a lifeline of understanding, compassion, and courage to someone silently struggling. If this resonates deeply, take a moment now to share your story below. Your courage in revealing your vulnerability may become the catalyst for someone else's healing journey. Who might find solace and courage in your honesty? Whose life might you quietly transform simply by daring to speak openly about your own struggles and insecurities? The freedom you've searched for outside yourself has always been quietly waiting within, patiently hoping you'll finally stop running, turn inward, and embrace who you genuinely are. True liberation isn't found in escaping your flaws or hiding your insecurities. It's found in gently holding these parts of yourself, accepting them fully, and realizing they've always been meaningful, valuable, and essential chapters in your authentic story. Are you ready to finally stop running from yourself and step courageously into the freedom of being genuinely and fully you?